Yankees, White Sox. Who knew? Must-see TV. Now batting, number 13. Now suspended, number 13. Let's bring in Tom Verducci, the great baseball writer, senior writer from Sports Illustrated. What do you expect today from Major League Baseball with this, Tom?
Well, I'm expecting this afternoon we'll hear an announcement about suspensions. There's probably in the neighborhood of a dozen of those, including Alex Rodriguez. And I think Alex will be the one player, and probably the only player, to file an appeal process, which I'm expecting to take about 45 days, really carrying through the remainder of the season.
The other players will take their punishment, and those who have teams that will be in the playoffs will be eligible to be back in time for the playoffs?
Yeah, that's why this is sort of a soft deadline that Major League Baseball has used. Tonight, the Texas Rangers will have 50 games left in the season. So if Nelson Cruz, for instance, suspended for 50 games, appeals or somehow had put off a suspension for a few more days, the suspension would have carried into the postseason because it's 50 consecutive games, no matter whether it's regular season or postseason. So MLB didn't want the 50-game suspensions carrying into the postseason or the 2014 season, so that's why we get today as a day of announcements.
Will A-Rod play tonight?
I think he will. You know, there had been a lot of talk, and this turned out probably to be mostly posturing on MLB's part, that they would suspend him under the collective bargaining agreement and the powers of the commissioner under the integrity of the game. In that case, if you were suspended under the CBA, you would appeal and would not be eligible to play. Whereas the joint drug agreement, if you're suspended under that, you appeal and you are able to play. And I think baseball has gone with the lighter approach, if you will, and he will be able to play. I think it's probably a smart thing to do on MLB's part, Dan, because if you suspend them under the CBA, all of a sudden now you make the appeal mostly about the commissioner's powers more than A-Rod's doping regimens. So I think they made sure they didn't want to overplay their hand here.
What if he comes back to play, but the Yankees just don't want to put him in the lineup?
You mean like last postseason?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a distinct possibility. I mean, he hasn't exactly set the world on fire in his minor league rehab. You know, he's 38 years old. I mean, he looked terrible last season, especially at the end of the season. There's nothing to guarantee that performance will be worth staying in the lineup. And, of course, if he's not in the lineup, people will speculate, well, the Yankees are just trying to punish him themselves by, you know, they want to be done with him, so they're not playing him. You know, listen, we've seen him on these minor league rehab programs, you know, not moving very well. I'm not sure he's going to be able to play third base 4 or 5 times a week. And we saw with Derek Jeter coming back at his age after missing so much time, you know, it could lead to something else in his body breaking down. So there's nothing to guarantee that just because he plays, he's going to play and continue to play in the lineup on an everyday basis.
What do you make of the conspiracy theory that A-Rod has certainly hinted at with the Yankees trying to avoid his contract? And, you know, there's some nefarious, people involved in this.
Well, I think he believes that, Dan. I think that's probably going to be part of his appeal, whether that's part of the appeal with the arbitrator or even if he chooses to pursue it in a legal aspect, to take this thing into court. People have not had much success doing that, by the way, but I think he truly believes something's been going on here besides just the connection to biogenesis. And, you know, let's be clear here, Dan. We have not heard Alex Rodriguez come out and declare any innocence as it relates to his connection to biogenesis and PEDs. This is all about what he calls due process, conspiracies. He certainly has tried to move the spotlight off his connection to PEDs to the team and MLB and their treatment of him.
Well, that's what happens in court sometimes, that you can look at somebody who's like, you know, OJ. You know, then it wasn't about OJ. It was about this police officer who was a bad guy. So, therefore, OJ couldn't have done it. This is a bad guy. You know, baseball's doing this to me, the PEDs and all of that stuff. I think they're trying to put the blame elsewhere. And I think A-Rod almost comes off as sympathetic in some circles because of this.
Oh, well, I don't buy that myself personally. I think, again, he's distracting from the real issue here, which is that MLB has found evidence that he has used PEDs for years. And, with the information that was out there from the Miami New Times on the doping regimens from Tony Bosch, I mean, you're talking about at least 19 different substances that were taken by injections, by lozenges, by creams, literally morning, noon, and night for years.
Wow.
The spotlight should really be back on that. But I'll tell you, fundamentally, to me, what this is all about is I think Alex was blindsided to think that he was someone who's never been found to be violation of the JDA. That drug test that he flunked in '03 was part of anonymous survey testing, so that didn't count. So he thinks, and he truly believes, he should be treated the same as Nelson Cruz or Johnny Peralta or Francisco Cervelli, all these players facing 50-game suspensions as first-time offenders. And baseball is saying, whoa, wait a second. We know you haven't been found in violation before, but we have all this evidence over multiple years, multiple violations, recruiting other players to join on biogenesis, obstructing the investigation, lying to investigators. They're folding all that in and saying you're a multiple violator here, which is what happened to Ryan Braun. So I think fundamentally, A-Rod has never got beyond the idea that he was expecting, I think, to be treated as a 50-game suspension with $8 million at risk of salary. Now it's 214 games and $34 million. So he's been blown away by the fact that MLB is not treating him just as a first-time offender.
I know you got a busy day, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
You got it, Dan. Thank you.
Tom Verducci, senior writer, Sports Illustrated. That's what I was told over the weekend, among the other things that I told you about at the start of the show. A-Rod said, I'll take 50 games. Now, this is what I was told yesterday. I'll take 50 games. And if you do that, then I'll sign up for that, because he was worried about the money. That's what this is all about, money. And the Yankees trying to avoid that contract, and that he's got all these emails from Randy Levine, the Yankees president, from what I'm told. I don't know what's in the email, but that A-Rod's people, they want to go after everybody. They're going to bring everybody in. They're going to subpoena everybody. If this goes to court, there's a whole lot of money here, folks. Whole lot of money. I don't know if you can show collusion there with the Yankees that they're trying to avoid this. Now, of course, they would want to, but you can't let them prove that. A-Rod's got a paper trail, but A-Rod's trying to get you to lose sight of the fact that he's cheated probably all the way back to high school. Same with Ryan Braun. That's the speculation with these guys. Not a first-time offense.